The last presentation for this morning is from the producer and director of Brutal Lives, Sandra Kailahi and Vela Manusaute. Brutal Lives has become a very successful TV series, the first ever Tongan bilingual drama funded by New Zealand On Air. And so we invited Sandra and Vela here today, first of all, because we're very curious to hear about Brutal Lives and the importance Brutal Lives has in in Pacifica communities here in New Zealand as a creative product, but also why has it become so popular? I mean, I'm following the news of all the festivals and the recognitions and the awards that Brutal Lives is receiving. So we would like to know what is happening there. So Sandra and Vela, please share with us. Unmute Sandra.
That would always help. Thank you, Valia. Thank you for that. Tapu moe a whio ai tua e hoto hao hauanga. Whakatapu kia ho eki mo haa matapule. O atu he naha whakatapu ki he eku, kaunga lea mo ki mo tolu, ko tō pēr, oku tau I hine I he ahoni. Malolilei, everyone. So thank you for that introduction, Valia. I'd just like to acknowledge my director, my co-creator, and also the co-writer of Brutal Lives, Faingata'a. I'd just like to introduce Vela Manusaute.
Yeah, Malo, talofa whakalofala atu. What a blessing to be part of this symposium. Malo Yuki, talofa, congratulations and everything. Acknowledge my new inside, Io, Zora, all the wonderful work you guys have done in our community. I don't know why Sandra dragged me here, but I'm just thank you. I want to be part of this conversation. It's wonderful conversation. Us as people of the Moana. So during these strange times, it's the only thing that keeps me, my sanity, is talking to our people. You know, yeah, it's amazing. Great space to be.
Whakawelahi, Vela. Look, I'm just going to share the screen now and then go through the presentation. And at the end of it, Vela, I will invite Vela to speak from his creative space around this. But I'm kind of, when Valia asked me to do this, I was like, oh, okay. Right, I'm going to have to think about some of the context for this, and made me realize a little bit more around it and to think about it. But also at the heart of all of this, Vela and I are storytellers, and we wanted to tell a story. And so we're going to take you on a little bit of a journey with this now. Hopefully you can see this presentation. You got the page there?
Yeah.
Yep, great. Is it just the presentation and not my notes?
Your notes we have too.
Oh, wow. Well, we don't want that.
That's all right.
Is that okay? I mean, I can just show it with you. Yeah, okay. I was hoping to just show this, not my notes, but never mind. We will go with that as well in the space. Or just give me one moment and I'll quickly fix this.
I think in the future we need Siri to be a lot more intelligent. Like, Siri, do this for me.
Yeah, I know, right? That would be really good. Okay, let's see this. Oh, great. So I've just titled this Tongan Storytelling for the Diaspora Living in Aotearoa. Brutal Lives, Mo'ui Faingata'a, or The Hard Life, A Brutal Life. It's a Tongan bilingual web series, as you mentioned, Valia, and it's the first one to be funded by New Zealand On Air. It's also a 6-part series, and they're about 12 to 13 minutes each of the episodes, so about 72 minutes all up. And we produced this, we actually filmed it at the beginning of last year, and we released it in July 2020. So this was actually filmed pre-COVID, the whole world is now changed. And so as we're getting ready to do another series, we're, thinking about all the different things that we have to think about in terms of what we have to do now with COVID. But essentially, Brutal Lives, it's a story about a father, a fallen boxing hero who's come back from overseas after being away for about 20 years or so. And he comes back and he has to face his family and he has to face his children, as well as an ancient spirit. So that's the premise of the actual web series as to, what it's all about and the story with regards to this. And here's the trailer to just give you a little bit more of an idea if you haven't seen it already.
What do you want? You are never here for us! Don't you?
So hopefully if you haven't seen it, that may may encourage you to want to see it. I want to talk a little bit about the process and also about the series. So the creators behind this are myself and Vela. We got together to talk about this and what we wanted to do, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about Vela. Vela is an award-winning playwright. He won the Adam New Zealand Pacifica Play of the Year this year with his play Sons of Vei. And he's also a playwright, a Niuean, probably our most senior Niuean playwright in New Zealand. Not probably is. He has written plays in English and in Niuean. He's toured around the world. He had the first Pacific musical called The Factory. So he's kind of royalty, and if I can put it in that way, in the sort of creative space in terms of playwriting for Niueans, but also as a senior established playwright. He also was a director for the Taini Sa series, which came out earlier this year, and that's looking at the Samoan spiritual aiku influenced series. He directed one of those series there. And he's also, he's won quite a few awards. He directed The Messiah, which is his first short film in 2017. And that's actually how Vela and I actually met. We met through, we got an unlikely partnership at the time, which has turned out to be a very creative and fulfilling partnership. I produced his short film, and he was in the, let me see, the Imaginative Festival, LA Skins Festival, Skabnavok, which is the ice festival in Finland. So he's had quite a lot of exposure and starting in that space with film. And then we've worked together. This is, I think, our fourth collaboration with Brutal Lives. Vela was born in Niue. He came over here. I knew he was going to say that when I showed this photo. He came over to New Zealand at an early age, but has very much kept his connection to Niue and also given back to the community. With myself, some of you may know that I'm half Tongan, half Kiwi. My mum is New Zealand European and my dad Tongan. He's now since passed away. So growing up in the 60s and the 70s in a bicultural relationship had its own challenges of knowing who I am and also learning the language. My father never spoke the language to me or my siblings. So we've struggled in trying to understand the language. And I've tried many times to learn the language, but I think I've got a barrier against it. Some of the things that were talked about in Daisy and Venusi and Eel's presentation around that connection, always knew that I was Tongan, but didn't really know what that always meant growing up, being sort of surrounded in a predominantly Māori community growing up, but always very, very proud of my Tongan ancestry. I also produced the For My Father's Kingdom documentary, which is really looking at a father's love for his children, but them understanding why he does what he does around culture and religion, from a similar situation in terms of being a half caste or half Tongan and half European. So we've had a little bit of experience. Also, I've done stuff in the space around Tangata Pasifika, being a journalist for many years. So storytelling is in our blood, both Vela and I. The inspiration for this came when we sat down and we were actually talking about a story and what we'd like to do. And Vela really said that he has a real love for family, but for boxing. And so we looked at different themes around what we could do in a story. Originally, the story was Samoan. It was a Samoan family, and it was the boxing. It was the son was the sort of main character alongside the father, as opposed to the daughter. A conversation with Valia actually prompted me to swap that around, and I suggested that to Vela that we change it so that the actual son becomes the daughter. And we really wanted to boost that narrative around strong Pacific females, not just in your traditional roles. And so Vela graciously took that on board, and we worked together around that. I also said to Vela, I love Samoan stories, I love Pacific stories, but I really feel it's time for a Tongan story. At first, he wasn't quite sure, but he really took that on board, and we discussed it more. And one of the questions for us was, would we have enough Tongan actors to be able to do this? We knew there were enough Samoan, but we didn't know that there would be enough Tongan. So we really talked about that. And to his credit, we really looked at that, and we changed it. In the discussion, Vela has a real passion around boxing. It's like an ode to the boxers of old. And he wanted to use boxing as a metaphor to tell the story around relationships. And so when we looked at the themes here of redemption, family, love, we really wanted to explore that in our own relationships with our fathers. We both had sort of very challenging relationships with our fathers growing up to different extents. And so we wanted to use that, and also Vela with his daughter and their relationship wanted to explore that as well. So we were able to take those themes of family, love, redemption, acceptance, and we put that into the story and then created Brutal Lives, Mo'i Faingata'a. There are a lot of themes in the web series that really weren't intentional, but came out anyway through our discussions with what we were doing. And so we looked at the relationships between fathers and daughters, or in terms of parent and child. And we use this in a New Zealand context. So this is a Tongan story. One third of the series is in Tongan. That was very, very important to the both of us. As someone who doesn't speak the language, it was a bit scary for me to be able to do this, because I knew that there would be probably in my own mind a lot of focus that would be put on that. But Vela was, adamant too that we really wanted to tell the story, and we wanted to be true and authentic as much as we could to aspects of the culture around the Tongan sort of culture and language, but in a New Zealand context. And so relationship between the father and the daughter, you can see that right throughout the series. And I want to show you a clip now of what that relationship actually looked like.
What are you waiting for?
Hey.
So I want to do a disclaimer. I have never hit my father, and Vela hasn't hit his daughter. But what we wanted to go through was to show the intensity and the emotions that some families have experienced here in New Zealand. It's not Tongan. It's not Tongan to do that. It's very disrespectful to do that, I think, to any parent, to be fair. But what it was, it signaled the emotions that as we move from the islands in terms of the cultural values, we still hold on to them, but in a New Zealand context, that can change. And so we wanted to challenge that narrative and put that in the series. We had some criticism from people who said that would never happen. We also equally got enough support from those who said, yeah, we can totally relate to that. It really sort of resonated with me around my relationship with my parents or my father. So it was an interesting decision for us, and we really backed what we did in that in terms of the dramatic storytelling, but also being authentic to what we know does happen. As I talked about, the inspiration around the boxing that came from Vela. He can share a little bit more around that. And we used it as the metaphor with the daughter and her and the boxing in there, which was really exciting to be able to do. When I look at Tongans in New Zealand, we have around, well, just over 82,000. It's probably more now, obviously, the 2018 census. But we know that Tongans have a very strong connection to the homeland in terms of they still retain their language, still church going, and also very family centric, and uphold a lot of the values from the homeland. Family was very important for us. We looked at what that looked like, and we explored the relationships between the different siblings and the different characters. That was quite an important aspect for us. But also another very important aspect was family, was love, but it was also relationships. So in the Tongan way, the Vei Tapui, or the brother and sister relationship, the va between a brother and a sister, is quite sacred. In a lot of the Pacific cultures, particularly in Tonga and Samoa, I know, to the point that, you don't go in the same room if you're watching TV together. If there's something happening, the brother may not go around by the sister. It's just in terms of showing the whakaapa, the respect and the sacredness of relationships. So we also wanted to explore this in the relationship between Soani, who's the main character, the fallen hero, who comes back, and then he has to kind of deal with his sister, who's been helping to look after his kids for all of that time.
O se tau ana ho au. Ke whoki mai koe whai ho whai kosi. Ka mena ke alo na whalai. Na ke mau ha mea mau inga mai ai.
Another important part of the storytelling for us was the spiritual angle. When Vela and I were talking about the story, we actually just had him being away and coming back when his father died. We both explored the idea around spirituality. What was different around the storytelling that would be authentic for us, but also kind of present a new angle or a different perspective. And spirituality was that for us. And so we wanted to look at just what the element of a ancestor's spirit, or a devolo, which is the Tongan word for devil, but not in a conventional or mainstream understanding of what that means, in a Tongan sense of what that means. So we explored the use of doing that in the actual web series, and then also just putting some elements of that were scary, but not in a thriller kind of scary, in a very kind of Tongan kind of scary. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, watch this. Another important part for us was the use of metaphoric language, or Heliaki, as we use it in Tonga. Queen Charlotte composed many of her famous and well-known poems using this style, this poetic license of metaphors, and she used flowers to describe a lot of the love and the symbolism in her poems. And Vela and I thought that for an ancient spirit to be part of the actual web series, it would be appropriate to use the language Heliaki, and to have it so that it was more metaphoric than straightforward. And we were able to do that with our cultural translator.
Tu muliatu, tuliatu, tulimai, tuliatu, tulikema. Lau te tawhi, ke whakahawhi o whai pere. Tu mai koe halai, koe whananga ia mate.
And another part of it was the use of legends and myths and traditional knowledge. We included a tokotaha whai to'o, which is a healer, a traditional healer. So we have the conventional medicine, but in Tonga, traditional healers, or the whai to'o, are still very much a part of society. And we wanted to incorporate that and use a legend, which comes from my village or side of Tongatapu, around Hina and Sinilau, the two of Tonga's greatest lovers that were tragically separated. And we use that inspiration as the legend to base why the spirit had come back to seek redemption. And yes, this is what we were able to do with it.
Ki vai pene o kutuki. Ke inu pa toki whaita ki whaito.
Since we filmed it, as Valia said, it's a little bit, the kumara doesn't usually sing its own praises, but I want to add this in here because we are very proud of the fact that this series has now gone international with different web series around the world. And just this week, we just found out that we're a finalist in the Best Pacifica program at the New Zealand TV Awards, which is incredible for us. We're very humbled by this. why we're excited about it is because we get to take the story out and share it with more people. And we just wanted to, you know, be able to sort of sing the praises of the fantastic crew and cast that have helped us to make this. And it's just been such an excellent and amazing journey that we've been able to do this and work together. And I just wanted to introduce, we'll let Vela talk a little bit now, because you've heard me talking a lot about it from the producing side of it, but he's the man that made it look great with his direction and his vision. We work as a team. And we were able to do this together, co-creating and co-writing, but it was Vela's vision for how he saw this. So Vela, I just wanted to ask you in terms of that, what was your vision for this, you know, in terms of wanting to make Brutal Lives the way that you did?
Malo, Sandra, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Feel honored to just have this conversation with all of you wonderful people. Look, for years, I wanted just to make a film. I think film is a collaboration. I don't know it all. I come with an idea, then, you know, then I work with Sandra. It's a collaboration between myself and Sandra. I have so much respect for my producer. I actually put her up there next to Jesus. So she's just, it's incredible the amount of work that goes behind the scene just to make this happen. And especially in this story here, I didn't want to tell a I've been telling migration stories for years and years in the theater. We wanted to tell something that is uniquely ours, that makes it ours. And like Sandra said, I wrote this idea. I had this idea for Samoan actors, and because I know most of them, but to be able to work with Tons, like first of all, that's not me. I'm Niuean. I'm Samoan Niuean. So things is that. You know, I take what's ours, and I have to be blessed before I take the creative work. And a great example I want to share with you guys. Please don't share with anybody else. I wrote an idea to a New Zealand film. And what they did was they took the idea, they paid me for the idea, but they wouldn't listen to the ideas that I came with on the table. So they took it. And straight away I told them, hey, listen, if it's not yours, don't just take it and make it, because these things, these energies are still alive. And what happens, I knew straight away it's gonna fail because it does not belong to them. And so is this story too. It belongs to Tons, it belongs to Sandra, the village it belongs. So I just came on as a director working with the actors. And of course, me being Niuean, I'm fearless. And there are a lot of challenges that we have. You know, Sandra goes, are you being Niuean or are you being a director? And, you know, the example was the grass. I wanted the grass. I wanted a high grass. And she said, Tons don't have high grass. You got to cut the grass. But I said, for visual references, I gotta listen. And part of this success is for me as a director to listen. And one thing that I noticed too was working with these amazing actors. And I wanted to hold the camera on these beautiful brown faces. We can tell funny stories, and we've seen jokes after jokes in theater and film and all that. But whether these actors, Pacific Island actor, can bring the feelings, that was for me was my whole direct as a director. And I just wanted to work on that space and the collaboration, and this is just incredible. You know, like we had at least 70 people in this whole thing. So I actually just sat and had a cup of coffee while my kids came to the film set and goes, what do you actually do? But we shot in a 3 camera. It's just amazing to be able to collaborate and let people who are expert in their field take charges. And I am just part of the collaboration of making this work, and fortunate that I have a wonderful producer and co-writer like Sandra that we both work on it. And this is like, and we found this like in the beginning, as Sandra knows, you know, I thought, my gosh, why did the film commission give me this woman? She's a journalist. But it worked out fine. It's just about us collaborating, listening to each other, and making things happen. We want to tell specific stories and make it ours through our lens. you know, the highest as possible. And wonderful people like Grant McKinnon, who's the DOP. It's just wonderful people that come to collaborate with to get this. You know, I walk on, as Sandra knows, I have my script and everything else that I go on set, but sometimes I get lost. I just take a break and say, I don't know how to do this. I don't know. And I'm never afraid to say, I don't know, and hold everybody up. And then when I do know, and when I do allow that energy to come through, you know, it kind of come through. But the whole film process, I enjoy, and I love working on this level. Yeah, I mean, it's many more to it. The celebrating of our stories, the taking out what we learn. Even when I watched this, I was just saying to Sandra, just a few nights ago, I actually have to open my door. I open my door and go, geez, I can't believe it. I made this and I still have to open my doors. Because we allow those energies to come. And, you know, like what me and Sandra said, these are not, you know, the European devils, you know, Freddy Krueger and all those guys. You know, this is our spirit. We sleep with our deads. If we go back home to the islands, where's our gravestone? They're in front of our doorsteps. We should not be afraid. And there's a lot of, you know, we're thankful for people like Annapella, people like Sima, Lisa. And I tell you what, I'm surrounded by powerful Pacific Island women. And of course, as a man, it's hard for me to listen to them. But hey, I listen to these guys because they make sense. And it's, you know, we got Malika. We got so many wonderful people. And Sandra's right about when she's trying to convince me to turn this to a ton and make the main character a girl. And I have to step into those personal spaces to allow myself to go, oh, these spaces I don't want to revisit. My relationship with my father, I really don't want to revisit those relationships. And Sandra points something out too. As a ton, you don't strike your father. But if you look at the frame, it was calling for it. I said, as the drama is calling, it demands that the girl need to do something. She needs to do it. She needs to do it. The reason why we hold the camera on her, it's just amazing. It's amazing collaboration with wonderful people. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to season 2. I just love the collaboration that we're working on.
Yeah.
And you know, if you get an opportunity to work on any form of collaboration is, to me, is the most wonderful thing out, because, you know, it's not like how we are on the islands. We go together as a village. You know, we go together as a village. I just, you know, Sandra's the chief because she's older than me. That's why I
Oh, Vela, thank you very much. Always enlightening there and entertaining. But as you heard, we are now getting ready to film the 2nd season. We got funding from New Zealand On Air, which is awesome. And we will be filming at the beginning of next year. But I will hand it back to you, Valia, and just thank you for this opportunity to be able to present it. It made us look back at it again, and we thought, goodness, this is really good. If you haven't seen it for a long time, you see it through new eyes, and it was really refreshing to see just all the amazing talent of everyone.
Sandra, can I just put one thing too? It also was an opportunity for us to work with new people. We were open to work with new people. For example, the Faingata'a, the healer, that was my son's teacher. He was saying to me, hey, Dad, if you're looking for an actor, my teacher's an actor. And I said, this is not a school production, son. This is an actual drama. So when she came and did it, I was a little bit frustrated because she wasn't getting it. And I keep going back to my sons like, so what you saying about your teacher? But when the camera rolled, oh my gosh, she just brought the realness of being torn. So, you know, not only we're working with people like Joe Falau, amazing, but we're getting new people to bring this world together. And, you know, it's amazing to be working with, you know, with that new energy. It's amazing.
Thank you, Vela.
Well, thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Vela. I think that you're now ready to start on Brutal Lives too, huh? Yeah. Rebooting. This is really fascinating, and listening to both of you talking about how you came to do this. And there's a couple of things that sort of got my attention. One is the availability of creatives in a in a relatively sort of often limited pool of migrant communities. And I remember you said that, that one of the things that stands out in the series is that it's, fully in Tongan, or it's bilingual. So what are some of the challenges in finding actors, creatives within a smaller community group? I mean, Vela, you mentioned the teacher of your son coming in to do the scene, with the healing, the spiritual part. So how did you source the people?
So, it's important. This is an indigenous story. First of all, we need to serve the Tongan space. That I must take that on board, and I must honor that to the fullest. And we need to source this out. There was, I think I'm probably the only non-Tongan there, and some of the crew, but everybody did you see on there, whether it's a half Tongan. So it's important that we serve that space. And it was a challenge. It's a challenge. We want more of our people, not on in front of the screen, but we want more of our people off screen, because they get it. They understand it. You know what I mean? There's something about working with my own people and serving the power of indigenous storytelling, and never be afraid or be mar of it.
I think one of the other challenges for us too was, so Joe, who's the main character, is also half Māori. Like myself, does not speak fluent Tongan. And to a Tongan speaker, you can hear that he's not a fluent Tongan speaker. We understood that. We had to work with him on that, and there are times that it was really good, and there were times that there were challenges. And so we had some critique from people saying, oh, you wouldn't say it that way, or please make sure that your actors, speak properly and speak proper Tongan, which is always hard. One, you've got to find them and that can do the job. And then two, be able to support them. So we're conscious about that in the second series. We're going to really work even more so on that. But then if I just say the Tongans are never happy, so it doesn't matter what you do, they will find something anyway. But we are doing it because there's just nothing else out there like it. And so if we can keep doing this, and from a New Zealand context, we can get away with some of that, because they'll always go, oh, they're in New Zealand. They're in New Zealand.
And the more stories you do, the more capacity you build.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
And even our editor's not Tongan, she's Korean. So it's about spending time with them. And even, I said, do you want to have some island food to get you? Because at the heart, the challenge was this was edited during the lockdown. So, I wasn't there to talk. So that was the most difficult time out. Because she's getting the notes and coming back with, like, I don't know how to explain to her, but it's I think it's getting everyone on the kind of the same page. That's always the challenge.
Thanks, Vela. We see Verena Thomas put her hand up for a question. Verena.
Hi, Verena.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much, both, for sharing your experiences. It was really inspiring and so fascinating and interesting. Thank you. I just wondered what the responses were from people in Tonga, living in Tonga, and what the engagement with the show was on the island, and anything you can share from those responses, because you specifically targeted diaspora community, I guess. Yeah. But in a sense, how does the product in itself connect or get shared within Tonga as well?
Yeah, so we played it out on the CocoNet, which is the largest Pacific portal, basically in the Pacific, or in the Southern Pacific, and in New Zealand. So they've got a huge following. We're probably sitting at about 340,000 views now, from over the last year, and that is gone right throughout the Pacific. We've had a lot of feedback from Tonga saying that they loved it. The critics, you know, come back with their own, you know, comments on that. And that's not to be unexpected, really. It is to be expected that that would happen. We are about to release the series on Pacific Island Television, which is funded by Ministry of Foreign Affairs in New Zealand, into the Pacific. So it will go to Tonga and play on television there, and also 13 of the Pacific countries. So it'd be interesting to see what other feedback we get in that space. But we've had just, you know, feedback from a lot of people right around the world, Pacific people, Samoans, not just Tongans. And a lot of them have just one about the production values, that they're like, wow, this is amazing. To the acting, the storytelling, and then just the relatability to them living as diaspora around the world. So not just Tongan, which has been quite interesting. And that's been quite enlightening for us. So we're watching the space for the second lot. Yeah.
I'm one not to listen to critics, and that's just been, you know, I've been booed off stage, thrown thin to get off. But you know, the thing is this: I have to serve myself and serve the world first, and that's what we've done. And I have to respect the space that I'm in and the people that I kind of work with, and it resonates to other people. I'm serving a story. First of all, most of all, is serving the story. You know, not everybody going to agree with it, because everybody always have an opinion, but that's just part of it. And I try not to, you know, I take some opinion. I read some stuff and say, okay, that's a good point. I'm not one to go, oh no, I know it all. That's just bots. That's just, I don't do that. I listen to, you know, take these notes on board. Like, okay, but at the same time, we are serving a story. Like I said, it was crying for the daughter to do something. Come on, we all know, and we all cheering for her to do something. Let's do it. You know, there are things when I move something around just because of my feeling, you know, and there's the song was in the beginning. I said, that doesn't feel right. We should move it to the end at the last minute. You just got to go with your gut feeling. If your gut is calling you, this is what it demands this, it's your ancestors going, do this. You got, it's, you know, it's, yeah, it's just going to make those choices.
We feel the passion there, Vela.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's just so unfortunate that, you know, we've run out of time and you're the last of the morning session. But I feel that all the presentations this morning deserve their own space, their own whole morning session. There's so many different layers and so many different conversations we can have for each one of these presentations this morning. And we hope that we will hold this space for more to come in a richer perhaps way. We have reached officially the starting point of the next session, but we are going to start in 15 minutes so that people have the time to go and have lunch and come back, and slowly joining us around 1 o'clock if you want to come back to the afternoon session. Thank you very much for coming this morning and for all the presentations.
Thank you, Valia.
Anna, sorry, can I just quickly say to Sandra and Vela, I just appreciate the decisions you made around exposing the tension in the VA, the decisions around, you know, no, you don't hit so-and-so, but you feel like it, you know, you've been in there. And I feel that exposing the reality of especially those in the diaspora, you know, the cultural differences, and trying to understand in a Western world and trying to carry those values over. I think that was really good, and a good release in the reality of like, that's what I really feel like doing, that's all what happened, but I know culturally is not correct. So well done on that. I think we need more of those conversations. We need to unveil the what's behind the VA and what happens in that space. So my Lord lover, and I loved it. I can't wait for part 2. Thank you.
Thank you.